Mariano Reyes looked at Joaquin and said 4 words. "I want you to kill your brother." And Joaquin did it. Why did Mariano choose his own son to pull that trigger instead of any of the men he brought with him? What did Rob Will say to Oreana right before he walked to that door? And how does the Yellowstone universe's most devastating single moment happen not in a gunfight, not in a war, but in a hallway? Let's break down exactly how El Padrino delivered the one ending nobody saw coming in quite this way. Before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you considered subscribing. We cover every major twist in Dutton Ranch and the Yellowstone franchise the moment it drops, and Season 2 just got a lot more complicated. Okay, let's start with Joaquin, because understanding why this moment lands the way it does requires understanding everything he's been carrying all season. Joaquin Reyes, played by Juan Pablo Rabba, spent 9 episodes as the person who was supposed to inherit 10 Petal. He was Beulah's adopted son. He was raised on that ranch. He believed the legacy was his. And then Rob Will came back, threatened Joaquin's life to force Beulah's hand at the anniversary party, and watched her publicly hand the succession to him instead. Joaquin was publicly humiliated by his own mother at her own celebration, in front of everyone who mattered. He went to Sheriff Wade with the murder weapon tied to Rob Will. Wade told him it wasn't enough without a body. With no legal options and no way to reclaim what he'd lost through legitimate means, he picked up a burner phone, called his biological father, and said he needed help. He thought he was calling someone who would fix this for him. He was actually calling the person who would hand him the most irreversible decision of his life. Now here's how the finale actually unfolds. Because the path from Joaquin's phone call to Rob Will's death is more complicated and more brutal than anyone expected. The episode opens with Rip and Beth already at 10 Petal, acting on Austin's intel about the incoming cattle delivery from Mexico. Rob Will shows up to stop them. He calls Beth a name in front of Rip, which is one of the shortest paths to violence in the Yellowstone universe. Rip smashes him into the grill of a truck while Beth calmly smokes in the background and grabs the tally book from Rob Will's possession during the fight. They take a group of the cattle back to the Dutton Ranch. Everett cuts them open. 3.5 kilos of fentanyl, a street value of approximately $2 million. Not a cattle smuggling operation with a drug problem on the side. A drug operation using cattle as the delivery system. And then Rob Will makes the worst decision of his life. He calls Mariano and tells him that Rip and Beth have found and taken the marked cattle. He thinks he's reporting a problem. He's actually giving Mariano the justification he needs to eliminate the one loose end he's been tolerating all season. Mariano calls Rip directly and threatens him. He sends armed men to the Dutton Ranch. Rip, Everett, Azul, and Zachariah are waiting. They handle it. The men Mariano sent don't make it back, but Mariano himself isn't there. He's at Beulah's securing his operation and issuing the order that changes everything. He finds Joaquin and tells him to kill his brother, not his men. His son. The person who called him for help. The person who wanted the ranch back. Now let's talk about Oreana, because this is where the episode becomes genuinely devastating. While all of this is happening, Oreana discovers she's pregnant with Carter's child. She finds Carter. She tells him she wants to leave Rio Paloma that same night. They share a moment together, and she goes home to pack. Rob Will is there. He finds her in her room, and for the first time all season, he isn't the villain in a scene. He's a father with his daughter. He tells her he's proud of her. Showsnob confirmed it. Rob Will has a soft spot for his daughter, and this is the scene where the show finally lets us see it. That final conversation between them is the most human Rob Will has ever been in 9 episodes. And then he walks down the hallway to answer the door. And Joaquin shoots him dead. Oreana arrives just in time. She finds him in a pool of blood. Beulah comes home shortly after to find her son dead and her granddaughter kneeling over him. Here's the rehook, because this is the part I don't think anyone's fully sitting with yet. Mariano didn't choose Joaquin to pull that trigger by accident. He chose him deliberately. Joaquin killing Rob Will does several things at once for Mariano. It eliminates a liability. It tests whether Joaquin will obey completely, and it permanently entangles Joaquin in the operation. You can't report a murder you committed yourself. You can't distance yourself from a cartel your hands are now inside. Joaquin called his father looking for power and ended up being handed a gun instead. That's the most brutal thing El Padrino does, not the death itself, but the way it positions the person who caused it. The full circle moment that multiple outlets confirmed lands hardest in the context of the whole season. Rob Will killed Wes Ayers in the series premiere, a sudden and matter-of-fact act of violence to protect the operation. Now he dies the exact same way, sudden, ugly, at someone's door. His own last line, confirmed by Variety, is one of the most unexpectedly poetic moments this franchise has produced. He tells Oreana that this place eats what it loves and keeps the bones. He says it without knowing it's the last thing he'll ever say. And then there's Carter. While the gunfight at the Dutton Ranch is being won, Beth is desperately trying to reach Carter. He won't answer. She can't find him. Mariano's men track Carter down, and by the time the episode ends, Mariano has called Beth directly to tell her he has Carter. That's not a loose end. That's a war. The season's final exchange, confirmed verbatim by Taste of Country, happens between Rip and Beth. Rip tells her they don't want Carter. They want us. Beth says then they're gonna get us. That is the engine of Season 2. So here's where the show stands heading into its next chapter. Rob Will Jackson is dead. Joaquin shot his own half-brother in the head, per Mariano's order. Oreana, who is pregnant with Carter's child, watched her father die. Beulah has effectively lost both sons in a single night. One to death and one to an act he can never take back. Everett has ended his relationship with Beulah. Carter is in Mariano's custody, and Beth and Rip are preparing for the most personal fight of their lives. Not a ranch war, not a business dispute, but a rescue. This is the show that pulled 12.9 million global views in its first 7 days, the biggest original series debut in Paramount Plus history. It holds an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Season 2 is confirmed with the full main cast returning. Season 2 is expected in mid to late 2027, and it begins with Mariano Reyes holding Carter, Oreana carrying a child whose grandfather just died, Joaquin living with what he did, and Beth loading up for a war. So tell me what you think. Can Beulah ever forgive Joaquin for what he did to Rob Will? And how far are Beth and Rip going to go to bring Carter home? Drop your reaction in the comments. I want to hear from everyone who just finished this finale. And if you want every Season 2 update the moment it drops, go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate having you here for it.